right. I think that we're live, Peter.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, hello, my dear viewer. Today is something a little different from my previous streams here. Today I decided that it would be a good idea to bring on a carnivore coach, an internationally accredited carnivore coach, someone who's actually been coaching clients for over, how long has it been now?
A billion years or a million.
Yes, yes, indeed, indeed. I think it's been, if I'm understanding correctly, if I'm remembering correctly, it's been over 20 years or so.
Yeah, 20 years. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm 42 now. I started coaching. I was about 21, 22 when I started coaching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so it's been a long time. You have it's safe to say that you have some experience. You have some experience coaching clients, but you've taken a break to coach coaches as well, which I think is very important. We can touch on that later, but
Hmm.
this is designed to basically be, a Q&A session, sort of a first official Q&A session that you can help me with, Peter, because there are going to be people that are maybe having some troubleshooting issues on carnivore, or maybe did in the past, or know someone that is, and it's very important to speak with someone or ask people that are familiar with coaching clients, familiar with dealing with these problems with other people, about what these potential etiologies are, potential reasonings are. But it's not just for troubleshooting questions. This is also for just broad level questions as well that I can answer, and maybe I can answer them more effectively. Maybe Peter can. This is designed to be sort of it's designed to be a collective Q&A, a broad level Q&A. So
Hmm.
while we're waiting for some more individuals to come on, I want to ask you, Peter, just to get us started. My most recent video, it's getting a little more traction than my others, and it's about Michaela Peterson, quote unquote, quitting carnivore? Question mark? Maybe did she really? What is this actually? And I don't know if you're familiar with what she has done within the last few weeks, but if you're not, or if you, my dear viewer, are not, allow me to tell you. Basically, what she has done is she has transgressed away from carnivore very slightly, to the point where she was introducing some leafy greens, particularly, from my understanding, in the form of arugula, whenever I looked into it a little more, but maybe some more variety there. And what she found was that this is the first time that she was finally able to do so without, um, without any problems, any symptomology. Which is very impressive, actually. It's something that I think is. I had some interesting takes on it. Actually, before I even iterate my takes, because I had them in the video. I want to get your thoughts on that. What do you think about someone transgressing away from carnivore? From 100% carnivore, what's deemed to be most appropriate, and trying to seeing how it makes them feel. What do you have to say about that?
Well, I got so excited when I listened to that video, and I got excited for Michaela too. And the reason being is because this is what makes us different than the vegan ideology.
Mhm.
We are doing this for health. So when someone shows signs of healing their gut, being able to do things they weren't able to do, that gets me excited. You know, let's compare that to, let's say, cold showers. We know
Mhm.
cold showers are beneficial, right? We know that's going to help your immune system. It's going to give you more energy, all these benefits. But if someone's life depends on only having cold showers, I would think, that's not the best life to live, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's also, if we compare that, it doesn't mean people can't shower without cold showers. Like, a lot of people every morning, they never had a cold shower, right? But what makes this story so beautiful is that this is just a sign of her healing. Now, you also said something interesting, that it should be temporary, because it could have been the food that caused the issue in the first place. And the more we avoid our proper species of diet, the more consequences that can come up. However, that goes to show how undogmatic we are. We want people to heal. And when they show signs of healing, that's exciting for me. And I think that was the heart of your video, and it was very well done. Good take on it.
Yeah. 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 Okay. So I wasn't sure if you had watched it or not. I had some interesting takes in the comments as well. Um there were I'm going to be honest, most of the takes were saying, I don't know why she would introduce these foods. Hey, whatever, you do you, right? But my take in the video was very similar to yours, which is I'm not condoning transgressing entirely away from carnivore just because you can, right? Basically, the distinction comes down to I'm a fan of people transgressing away to see if they can, to
Mhm.
see if in the instance where they potentially may have to depend on suboptimal foods, they can actually do so without being in crippling, debilitating pain. And if they can do so successfully, then what you now know is that actually reinforces the notion that reinforces carnivore, right? Because what you've done now is you've shown, okay, carnivore has actually helped you so much to the point where if you have to transgress for some odd reason, hopefully, God forbid that has to happen, but if you have to transgress, you're not going to be in the floor. And I think that that's actually not only is that fine, I think that's actually something that we ought to do experimentally. Like when people are super super ill like that, super sick or debilitated or disordered in some way, structurally, mentally, it's important to at least have some point where you go, okay, let's see. It's been 6 months, it's been 2 years, it's been 5 years, however long it takes to say, okay, well, what happens when you add in some, in this case, arugula or something like that? Because then what you do is you're not condoning the consumption. You're not saying this is optimal. You're saying what happens if you have to?
Mhm. Yeah.
Like, what happens if you have to? What happens? Like, are you still, or do you withstand it well, or do you withstand it poorly still? Because if you withstand it poorly, it's not necessarily the case that you're not done fully healing. It could very well be the case, but it could also be the case that if you have a good experience that no, this is a sign like okay, carnivore has healed you so much, like further reinforces the notion of carnivore. So yeah, I'm glad that we're on the same page with that. We've
Should I
got
give?
we've got yeah,
Oh,
go ahead, go ahead. Yeah.
if you have some questions, that's great. But I'm just going to give you my personal example as well. And you kind of gave your example of like having the car and being able to go and not wanting to.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but I'll give you my example. When I was first healing, I was at the point where even the pepper on my steak or my eggs would trigger my food addiction and trigger all these other symptoms: runny nose, nausea, um, anxiety, just from the pepper on my steak. And I have young kids, and I remember, going out for ice cream and me getting the smallest cone and having that, and again, all these symptoms. But months into the diet, I think I was like 6 months in, I got some. We went again for the same ice cream, and I thought, okay, I'm just going to carry it with me. I'm not going to have any. And
yep,
I started having it, and there was no triggering. I was like, this is just ice cream. Like it's not throwing me out of the loop. Again, it's not optimal, but I was able to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm still going to suffer some consequences, like maybe a little stomach upset, maybe um, a little anxiety just from the blood sugar increase. But I wasn't.
yeah,
I was excited. I was like, man, I'm healing. And the longer and more we can get people healed, that's the most important. And stick to what's working for as long as you can, for as often as you can. Transgress minimally. But if there's questions, we can go to those. Eh?
yeah. So we have someone. The first question actually isn't even pertaining to health particularly. It's from Paul Salvatera, who says, "Who is Edward's guest?"
Oh, Coach Peter, everybody, nice to meet you. Piece of meat.
Yes,
That's me. I'm the
yes,
I'm the founder of the world's greatest carnivore certification program, Carnivore Coach International.com. Check it out.
yes. I have the links as well in the description of this live for anyone that's curious to check this program out. Of course, I have been promoting this for a very long time. Depending how you look at it, it's been not too long, but still, it's been long enough. It's a really good program. I don't know if you want to elaborate more on what this is about before I give my opinions on it, but I think this might be a good time to talk about it because it's very important, which is precisely why I'm such a strong proponent of it.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to just give you a quick take because you said a couple things at the beginning, like, why am I taking a break from coaching people?
Mhm.
And the very simple answer to that is I'll be able to help more people. That's the ultimate goal if I train and equip and support and educate coaches all over the world. And now we have about a couple hundred now coaches in our program all over the world, right? Worldwide, who are now healing people. So I had a very, if you guys want to check more about my story, if you go to my Instagram, Carnivore Coach Peter, there's a video there, me in my car, of why I felt such a desire and why I'm so obsessed with this. I had a close friend of mine take his own life, and who was trying to get help from me, but I was just too busy. And so from the time I'm awake to the time I'm sleeping, my goal and my vision is to have great instructors like Eddie, like Coach Stephen Thomas, and several others. We have some members. We just added Lee from Carnivore, which is an awesome module. If Eddie, I don't know if you had a chance to check that out, Lee's module,
I've
but
I've checked out a bit. I've checked out a bit. Yes. Obviously, with me involved in many different programs and stuff like that, it's tough. It's tough to keep up, and that's actually a good thing that I want to cover, because then people might look at that as a downside. But no, it's not that. That won't be your experience, because how you should look at it is it's continuously being updated. We're continuously adding to this program more and more material that is of people's benefit. You mentioned, the instructors in the program. You've got Coach Stephen Thomas, you got Lee, but I've also contributed multiple modules to that program surrounding concepts like the Randall cycle in depth. I talk about it in my public material, but you can only get so much out in one go, in the public material. And I've got lessons on, the cholesterol, saturated fat, and heart disease phenomenon that people are a lot worried about, vitamin C metabolism, even talk about the carbohydrates and their implications in high intensity training and stuff like that. And who's to say that those are those are just a few, but who's to say that, the ones that I've contributed are going to be the only ones? We're continuously adding to it. And I'm really looking forward to what it's going to turn into over the course of the next few months, years. I think it's definitely important for us to grow this community larger, of coaches that actually know how, like, what they're talking about, and can actually coach clients effectively. Because ultimately, for anyone watching, I want you to think back to the last time that you encountered, um, any fitness or nutrition influencer online, on Instagram, TikTok, when you're scrolling, and they say something absolutely ridiculous. Like, I don't know, you should
like,
have no more
like,
than 2 eggs a day or something like that. Like, something really dumb, really dumb. And I
or
want you to,
how much
yeah,
fat raises insulin, that kind of
yeah, yeah, yeah,
thing.
that kind of thing. That's just, it does not actually, it doesn't match with objective reality in any way. It doesn't add up. And I want you to think about how many of those people that you find online, because it's not just one person, but how many of those people are coaches themselves, refer to themselves as coaches. And I want you to remember how that felt, because it's very important to remember that feeling, because that feeling is real. Okay. It's
Mhm.
real easy to forget it after 5 minutes of putting the phone down, but it was real. It's frustration. It's indignancy. You feel like you're being cheated. It's unfair. It's
Yeah,
unfair, because you have all these people that refer to themselves as coaches and literally coach clients, and are in many cases ruining their lives more, whether they realize it or not. And they're the ones that get the clients. They're the ones online spreading this message. And unfortunately, given the size of the carnivore community, we're growing. I just launched my own personal health science community as well, and I'm looking forward to growing that, in the coming months and to years as well. But it is still smaller than a lot of these other spaces. And so what we need is not only a community of like-minded people, but which, again, I'm offering that in my health science community, but also a community of coaches as well, that are internationally accredited, that can actually give authority meaning again.
yeah.
And this program is the best way to do it that I've seen. It is the best coaching program that I have seen in the space. One, hands down.
Thank you. Well, you said an important thing at the end too, and I want to comment on some of these comments here that from the chat. Some of these are good.
Yes. Yes.
Um, but I wanted to give the coaches not only the education, not only the community to learn from each other, to learn from you and the other instructors, but also that credibility. So currently
Mhm.
we have two international accreditations, which accredit you as a certified coach wherever you are in the world. And we also have two national that are helpful if you're based out of the States, one with NASM, National Academy of Sports Medicine, also with Athletic Fitness Association of America. But we're currently in the works of three more. And some of the people are asking, why are you working so hard to get these accreditations? They're not easy to get being in the carnivore space. But the more I can make you guys credible in the space, you just earn more respect and people will have more apt to listen to you more. So, when you just claim yourself as a coach, that's nice and you want to help people, that's great. But having that credibility behind your name, it makes a difference for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, 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 and it's very important. This is how I phrase it, basically. We all know that appealing to authority is a fallacy. Like, just because someone is in a position of authority, whatever position of authority they're in, that doesn't mean that what they are saying surrounding their given field is correct.
That's
But
correct. Yeah.
it doesn't change the fact that most people are still going to appeal to authority because it's a natural psychological phenomenon. And so what I've said is, okay, well, if that's going to be the case, if we just take that at face value, that's always going to be how it is, right? No matter how many times I say in my public material all the time, don't don't just trust people merely based on authority. If it's still going to be the case that people are going to do that, then you might as well make authority mean something. You might as
Mhm.
well make the authority tag that you have that has been sort of it's been tainted over the course of decades by people that that they just run into the ground. They abuse that authority title. You might as well revive it. You might as well take it and do something good with it. And so this is a perfect opportunity to do so, because we can scream all we want, we can cry all we want about the fact that authority doesn't necessarily mean anything. It can mean something, but not because of the property of authority, not in and of itself. But it can mean something if people represent it properly. We can cry all we want about how that isn't necessarily the case, but those people still have that authority. They still have that title, and people are still going to listen to them. So if it comes down to competing with erroneousness, falsehoods, by becoming an authority figure that actually espouses the truth, then so be it. We have to play that game. That's how it goes. And so this is just one of the. I mean that's one of the major points that I want to address with this program. One of the major benefits is that this allows you to not merely become you know a certified. This is internationally. This is international accreditation that you acquire through, once again, the National Academy of Sports Medicine, through the Athletics and Fitness Association of America. And I'm glad that you mentioned that there's three others that are in the works. Of course, we have to be careful. We have to make it a surprise, right? We can't ruin the surprise. But we are there are three others in the works, and I'm really looking forward to what that turns into.
Yeah, there's one real big one coming up. A real big one that actually will put you at the top coaches in the USA. That will be nice for the USA. I can't say which. I'm sure some of you guys know, but it's coming. I've been working with some other leaders in the space, and they're collaborating with me on getting that done. So very exciting for that, and hopefully by spring we have it set up.
Yes, yes, indeed. If you are a viewer that is just joining, I know that there are other people just joining. This is designed to be. I'm here with Carnivore Coach Peter, someone who is coach. He has quite the expertise with coaching clients. And he's taking a break to coach coaches as well. And we're here to answer people's questions. We're here to answer your questions
Bring
that you
it.
may have about it could be troubleshooting carnivore, but it also could be broader level questions about science itself and everything. And we're looking forward to answering those questions, answering your questions about whatever it may be. If you want to, I know that you said that there's some chats that you want to address already. There's some that I'm looking at here. If you want to, I don't know if you
Okay.
if you want me to read them off.
um, Could you read the one about plant protein? I just chuckle at that one.
Yes, yes, that's what I'm looking at as well from Aurelie Andumitru 8382.
Thanks for
Um,
being here, by the way. Great to ask your questions and comments. Thank you for doing that. But Eddie, I'll let you have the floor on that one.
yeah. I'm looking forward to this one. This is gonna be fun. Yeah, I'll give my 2 cents after you provide yours. Hello, here's an example from Dr. Autumn Smith podcast she did with Dr. Berg. Quote: Some time ago, David Sinclair was asked whether animal or plant protein is better for longevity. He answered simply, "Look at the statistics of where people live the longest and what they usually eat. Blue zones eat mostly plants and very little meat, and he came to this conclusion with experiments on mice in the lab. Plant protein activates less mTOR, which prolongs life. There are some studies recently that confirm that plant protein builds muscle just as well as animal protein, or the differences are small. There are vegan athletes. We need to listen to our bodies. Some people feel better on a plant-based diet." That was a quote from that podcast, What People Think. I'm speechless. What are your thoughts, Peter?
Oh man, there's so many gems in there. But thank you. I just want to say thank you so much for providing the mouse study. I have some mice that live in my parents' basement. I will be sure to tell them about what you've discovered there. Um, I'm being a little bit fallacious, I think, but is that the word, Eddie? Fallacious?
Facetious. Yes.
Facetious. Eddie, you're my
Yes.
you're my Wikipedia, my encyclopedia. Okay, so or thesaurus would be a better name.
Yes. Thesaurus.
Okay. Okay, so I've been training athletes for a long time. I've trained even athletic athletes, people, high levels of hockey, soccer, boxing. And I must say, there is a benefit and an improvement in the performance when they're going, let's say, more of a vegan, high carbohydrate approach.
Mhm.
And I didn't really understand what was happening. However, what I saw every time was after a month or two, they tanked. And when I say tanked, all their levels were their energy levels, their sleep sucked. Like there was a lot of things I could say that happened. Their sex drive, a lot of things. Now, when I learned about the Randall cycle, that really did explain a lot of things. And when you're eliminating one of the fuel sources, when you remove fat out of the equation, because to be a vegan, most of the time you do have to do high carbohydrate, low fat. And I've done it as well. I've done like they call it the 80-10-10, like kind of what Dorian Ryder and Freely the Banana Girl were doing back in the. Well, I think they're still doing it. Just look at them. And I'm not commenting on their bodies, but just take a look.
Mhm.
When your body's used to that carbohydrate, your body will use that, and it will use it quick. It will use it fast. However, again, doing this for a long time, when people switch overnight or after a couple of weeks to keto, there is a drop in energy. Okay, there is a drop in performance quite a bit. It's because their body has not adapted to using fat as fuel. But I've told Eddie this as well. It's kind of like the kindling on the fire. You just have to keep feeding the fire kindling, and that's why vegans and low fat people have to constantly eat. They're constantly eating dates and bananas and all these things and juices and smoothies and
Yep.
these sugar bars and cookies, Oreos, which are vegan. But when you get the fuel going, like that big log, that's what's going to keep the fire going. And I know that's not biochemical, that's not completely accurate, but it's a good,
It's
example.
analogous. Yeah. It's an
Yeah,
analogy.
yeah, it's an analogy of what really takes place in a fat adapted client. So are there vegan athletes? Yes, and I've met them. However, I've also seen their supplement cupboards. They're packed. They're packed with supplements. They're taking external protein, vitamin, a lot of B supplements, a lot of other supplements as well to counteract a lot of the, I would assume, glycation that's taking place by all the sugar they're having. So I
Mhm.
didn't even scratch the surface. Eddie, I'll let you kind of finish off there.
Well, I mean, I completely agree with what you've said. You can see a benefit whenever you're using sort of relative privation methods, where you take veganism or a high carbohydrate, low fat diet, and you compare it to a very, very poorly fortified, a poor quality standard diet, right? I mean, usually you'll see people have benefits from going on a vegan diet from whatever diet they were eating before. I've never said otherwise. In fact, I've actually not only not said otherwise, I've said the exact same thing. I've said, yeah, this is to be expected. When it comes to me addressing these comments here, I will say that there are about 30 different things that I can say in response, and I have to be very careful with which ones I actually decide to say. I'll take a more scientific approach to this. Let's look at this claim here that says some time ago, David Sinclair was asked whether animal protein is better for longevity. Better for longevity. There's already a problem in the question. You can't even establish that because that is a cause and effect statement. Better for longevity. I mean, if you're saying that something is better for longevity, you're implying that there is a study that has been done that proves unequivocally, that has been directly demonstrative in showing a causal relationship between the animal or plant protein concerned and its effects on longevity, like prolonging your life or decreasing your lifespan. And that doesn't exist. But if he is going to be asked his opinions on which one could, or if there is a causal relationship, he's going to give an opinion on that. Let's look at his claim here. Look at the statistics of where people live the longest and what they usually eat. I mean, this is. I'm sure every single person that hears this has heard it once before, at least once before. Oh, look at the longest living populations. It's like, well, again, you're talking about an association here on a very large scale, sure, but the population, in many cases, it's done on very aged populations in order to ensure the occurrence of death. So the results of the studies can't be extrapolated to any other group that isn't studied, any other person that isn't studied. However, very simply put, healthy user bias and unhealthy user bias. What else were these people doing and what else were these people not doing? What else had these people done before the study began that could have influenced their outcomes? And then finally, on the final point that I'll add is whenever you look at these prospective cohort studies where they're actually comparing two populations together and you look at the strengths of the associations, the strengths are pretty weak. But if you look at the differences between the outcomes, like the primary outcome variables, in this case, mortality, when you compare the relative statistics, like that's usually conveyed in a percentage form, like, oh, decreases your risk of death by 42%, right? So there's always a relative outcome statistic, 42% difference between groups. When you convert those values into absolute levels, what was the absolute difference in incidence? What you'll find is that the absolute difference is in the tenths or hundredths of thousandths of incidents per person per year of follow-up. And by the way, first of all, you multiply that by 100-year lifespan, 100 years for 100-year lifespan, you're going to have an even smaller number. But also, I mean, it's not just that. It's not just that. You're dealing with people that are they have a completely different amount of experiences that they've already experienced in their lives that are influencing. There's so many confounders that are controlled for. It's a complete waste of time. It really is a complete waste of time. And it's something that I don't know when people are going to get it through their heads that this is not science. That doesn't prove anything.
I'd like to comment on the correlation and the percentages, right? Like, even though these are correlation, even those numbers are quite low, like in the tenths of percent. And what's crazy to me is, like, a lot of these people, I don't want to accuse any group, but they'll say it's comparable to smoking. And I'm like, are you nuts? Like, because there is no concrete evidence that smoking causes this or this, but the correlation is so high, you can't ignore it. So we're not talking about 10%. We're not talking about 20. We're not even talking about 100%. We're talking about hundreds of percent of increased incidences in smoke and cancer of people who are smoking. That is something to pay attention to. When you come at me with, like, increased risk of chance of possibility of like 0.1%, I'm like, get out of my face, honestly. And I do appreciate some of Dave Sinclair's work. I do respect him in the way he is very intelligent. However, a lot of his thoughts are based on theory. It's a theory.
Most of them are, yeah.
Yeah, most of them are based on theory. He's actually one of the people that, that glass of wine a day keeps the doctor away kind of thing. Some of that was based on his research back in the 90s, I believe. But you can feel free to Google that if you wish. And even that in itself, yeah.
Yeah, he's promoted the idea of basically taking metformin even though you don't need it, and also aspirin, I believe, in the past. So, I mean, as much as he may be well intentioned, his grasp on scientific inference is quite limited, because most of what he is referring to is associations. That was the point that I was trying to get at earlier, is that, when we're talking about the absolute difference in the tenths or hundreds of thousands of incidents per person per year of follow-up, don't let that language mislead you into thinking that these researchers are following up with these people only once per year. It's actually even less than that. On average, it's about every 2 to 4 years. They're actually following up with these people that they're studying or observing with food frequency questionnaires. It's so noisy. Like, there where these with these these people, these participants, are answering questions on a food frequency questionnaire that say things like, oh, well, in the last 3 months, how many servings of X do you have per day, or whatever, and you have to answer, like, it's like multiple choice, or in the more forgiving instances, they'll actually allow you to put how many servings. But what is a serving? What actually is a serving? There's so much noise in here, and also it's up to the researchers as well to determine which foods go under which category. So this is where you get the classic meme that's thrown about, where it's like, oh yeah, red meat increases your risk of heart disease or diabetes by 62%, and then it shows the red meat used in the study, and it's like,
A
you know,
pizza.
yeah, a pizza or like a burger with fries and a soda alongside it with all these condiments and the bread and it's like, this is, and not to mention the demographic of people that are more likely, or that most commonly, most frequently eat those meals, are also eating a lot of other things that weren't even included in the food frequency questionnaire, weren't even inquired about. They have poor behaviors, like especially in the past, in the 70s, the people that ate a lot of red meat, especially in the 80s and the 90s, people ate the most red meat. What else are they eating? What those people, there's unhealthy user bias. Those people might be more likely, they're definitely, it's most common for those people to consume a bunch of sugar alongside that as well, because they're they're sort of, they're I don't know, they're deviants in a way. They're going against the grain. Like, I don't really care about that. I just want my meat. I just want my red meat. Well, they're going to use that logic for sugar as well, and ultra processed foods. So yeah, I really think that we have to get away from this nutritional epidemiology. If people have forgotten what epidemiology is actually for, it is
It's not
not
science.
for, yeah, it's not, and you have to provide a really strong signal in order to swamp all the noise that's introduced. Like, for example, the smoking incidents. That is such a strong signal. That's such a strong result. It's impossible to ignore. That's
Exactly.
different. That's
Yeah.
different. And
Hey,
so, yeah.
Eddie, ask me what I ate for breakfast this morning, or what I ate today.
Yeah. Okay. What did you eat today, Peter?
I
I'm,
don't
I'm
remember.
curious.
I don't even remember, and it's been less than 10 hours. Right? So, if you're going to ask me a
Is that,
questionnaire,
well, no, that's that carnivore brain fog, man. You're not eating enough carbohydrates. That's what it was. You can't even remember. You're getting dementia, man. You're slowly killing yourself. That's what it is. It's got to be that.
it's got to be.
Yeah. Let's see. We've got I think another question here.
Thanks everybody for your comments and questions. By the way, if you agree or disagree, we welcome them. All love and respect here.
Yes, indeed. Sam's a fire. Sam's a fire. Again, I'm doing my best with the usernames. I'm doing my best. Hi, do you both eat salmon or shellfish? Are you someone that eats, how much do you actually prioritize seafood in your diet personally, Peter?
A little bit. It's hard to find good quality seafood, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, for sure.
so if they said fish or shellfish,
Salmon or shellfish?
yeah, salmon maybe once a month.
Salmon.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
if I feel like I need a little bit of that iodine, a little higher, I feel like
Hmm.
my body, you start to crave more of a higher protein compared to, let's say, higher fat. Like, you need to do
Yeah.
some more replenishing. You're building more muscle. Maybe I'll throw in a couple cans of sardines in the week or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I have never actually had salmon before ever in my life, and I really want to. I've never
Okay,
had salmon though.
meat stock. I'm going to buy you a nice salmon, buddy.
Okay, good. Yes. I've actually had the opportunity to have salmon, but it's all been like farm raised, and I've actually told myself, I'm like, I don't if when I have salmon, I don't want it to be farm raised because what if that influences my perception of the taste of salmon because it's farm raised and poor quality? I'm not sure though because I don't know how distinct the difference is between the two. Um, but okay, so about seafood though, are there people, sort of expounding upon this? I wonder, are there people that you've coached that seem to do better with having some seafood in their diet? They may have maybe had some symptoms on carnivore or something. They improved whenever you've introduced seafood. Do you see any indication for seafood in people's diets under certain circumstances?
There's no, there hasn't been a real relation to that unless I recommend for some protocol, like clients who've had, let's say, they're, had a, um, what's the surgery, by the surgery, the fat loss surgery? What's it called?
You've got liposuction or
Either
you've got gastric bypass?
gastric. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
that
yeah.
carnivore brain again.
Carnivore brain
But
fog.
yeah, sometimes I'll recommend instead of having like one or two big meals, spread your fat out throughout the day, and then do one leaner meal. And then that's when they'll say that's when you a good time to have fish or chicken, that kind of thing. That's the only That's the only time that I really promote it. Um, if someone is gone through, maybe some hormonal issues, and we want to experiment by increasing their iodine a little bit more, we might experiment with some some seafood as well. So, but it's not one size fits all. But if you do feel like you have a bit of a fat loss stall, start experimenting with some seafood. Not saying you have to have it, but I'm curious to see if it helps a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I generally agree. I don't think it's a good idea to base your diet predominantly on seafood, like 90% seafood or something, but it can be supplementary. I think that's actually, I think more variety on a carnivore diet can be of people's benefit, depending on their circumstances and their specific genetic makeup. We got another little bit of an anecdote from Paul here. It's not a direct question, but I wanna see if you have any insight on this. A little bit of detail on him. Currently increasing exercise. I am 70. Good heart, liver and kidney, and eyesight. Liver and kidney and eyesight. Any suggestions I add? I react badly to diabetic meds, oral and injectable. Says my 90-day blood glucose level is 114, 95% between 70 and 130 on CGM reports. I not believe 5.6 on A1C. So I think he's saying I believe 5.6 on A1C, not below. So I don't know that I suppose that on immediate sort of encounter, you might look at that and say that's on the higher end, of what's considered normal. What are your opinions on this with the detail that he's provided? Do you think there's any problem or
What was the thing he said before that? Was it about his eyesight?
Yeah, I think he's saying that he's got good heart, liver, and kidneys and eyesight, like all that's in good health. I think that's what he's saying. Paul, you can also comment and if that's wrong or I'm misinterpreting what you're saying, but I think that's what he's saying.
You know what? It's I would ask a lot more specifics. I'd be like, how much are you eating? How often? How is your stress level? Are you grounding? Are you getting sunlight? There's a lot more questions I would ask outside of that. I would recommend you connect with one of our certified carnivore coaches. Maybe one of the ones
Mm-hmm.
that you interviewed. Um, One of our coaches, Coach Steven, he was just on with Sean Baker recently, so you can check out him. Coach Eviticus, I think is his name. I can
Coach
recommend a few.
Invictus. Yep.
Yeah, Coach. I can recommend a few others, and then if you want some more insight, I'm sure they'd be willing to give you a free call or something. But we have some great people on the team. But yeah.
Yes.
So in short, I can't really. I have to ask more specifics, which we might not have time right now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we've got some people also asking questions to Paul as well. Because that's the thing. It's very important that take a very comprehensive look at someone and you ask the right questions. I think people underestimate
Mhm.
the value of just having someone ask you questions in order to help you. Because a lot of time, I think that's actually the best thing to do. Instead of saying, no, this is what I think is the problem. This is what I think is the problem. There's times for that. It's appropriate, sure. But the most important thing is to ask questions because then you get the other person thinking about their own life in more detail. That's actually, it helps them. A lot of times you can guide them to the answer without saying anything, without stating anything. You just ask them the right questions. So that does mean though, however, that we would need more time. You got to put aside some more time with like you said, one of our certified carnivore coaches to really sit down and have the time to get questions asked to you about what's going on, and so you can actually go through the whole thing comprehensively, because you'd be surprised at how many things people can miss because they put so much emphasis on diet, which is a good thing, but it can get to a point where you put too much emphasis, you forget about all the other things that can help you or potentially cause you harm if you're not doing something else, right? So, or contribute to a problem. The one thing that I'll say is the thing that matters with blood glucose levels. Every single piece of literature that I've ever seen, and the fun fact about me, I think that a lot of people might not know, or it might catch them by surprise, is that I think some people might look at me and go, "Oh, he must be really well versed in the scientific literature." Actually, um, I intentionally am not, because most of it, 95% of it, I know that the structure is nonsense. But of the amount that I've seen in like physiology journals, which is different, it's different from human nutrition science, all of the evidence points in the direction of the variability and the activity of the glucose being a problem, more so than the absolute level. So if your level of blood glucose on a CGM is looking to be 105 continuously, but it does not fluctuate that much at all, like it might go up 5 or 10 points, might go below that 5 or 10 points, your variability is very low, and so that's the thing to look at most. I would say, okay, that's not necessarily a problem. You got to look at presentation first. People are worried because they're worried about incurring too much damage, a ton of damage on carnivore from glucose levels being higher. But you have to remember as well, the glucose level that you're presenting with on carnivore is completely demand driven.
Mhm.
It's completely demand driven. You have to remember this, because as soon as you start thinking like, oh, I'm having too high of a blood glucose level, I'm incurring too much damage just because of a flat line level that's just higher than, someone else that exhibits higher insulin levels. Maybe that's why their glucose is lower, because insulin is required to bring the glucose levels down. Then, you might, you got to consider, you have to consider that that's not necessarily a problem. Like it's not necessarily a problem at all. It's
Mhm.
not necessarily a problem at all. I've done many videos on this in the past, especially whenever there was that whole, the annual, everyone's quitting carnivore panic, and like, oh yeah, everyone's quitting carnivore. Carnivore's dead. Carnivore's old news. I spent months actually dealing with this, because I was like, well, if they're going to talk, I'm going to yell. And I'm going to actually say the truth about this. A fasting blood glucose level, a CGM, those have utility, CGM more so than a fasting blood glucose test. But the best things to test are your fasting insulin. You can test if you really want to, you can try and get a respiratory exchange ratio or respiratory quotient measured or estimated, really, with a Lumen device or something. But fasting insulin alone is pretty good. And then also a fructosamine assay. That's a better indicator of your actual glycation rate. Coach Stephen Thomas in our carnivore certification program actually has a whole module about this as well. If you want to learn more about it, again, join to be an internationally accredited carnivore coach, fitness and nutrition coach, so that you can help more people and enlighten them to all this knowledge as well, and make authority mean something again. Links are in the description below.
Yeah, his
Want to make sure people know that.
yeah, but his module is so in depth. Him and I are going to be working together, hopefully soon, on creating a whole different certification just on blood analysis.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
just
and it's very important that we do so.
yeah,
There's some things that he said that I didn't even know. For example, about the triglyceride testing,
mm,
because this isn't my expertise. He's the one that actually deals with these tests. Turns out that when you're measuring triglycerides, like people talk about, oh well, my triglycerides went up on carnivore. It's like, did your triglycerides really go up, or did your triglyceride number go up? Because
yes,
it turns out that triglyceride numbers, when you get your triglycerides tested, they're not measuring actual triglycerides like fatty acids esterified to a glycerol molecule. They're not. They're measuring glycerol in your bloodstream.
hmm
Now, anyone that knows biochemistry, me, anyone that knows biochemistry, any aspect of physiology, understands that there's a glaring issue there, like massive issue.
hmm
And what that issue is what happens when you break down your fat to use it for energy. You release fatty acids and glycerol. So whenever you're undergoing lots of fat loss, a higher rate of fat loss, lipolysis, What happens to your triglyceride level when you measure it? Goes up.
See,
Whoa.
this is why context matters so much in these readings. Like we just had one of our students had a question about his stool samples, and a lot of the readings were like the in quotes the good bacteria is low.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, okay, well, that bacteria thrives on fermenting carbs. So if he's carnivore, maybe it might be a little low. So this is why we create the program. Is like when you're coaching people, you have this backing and you have this understanding that yes, the numbers will look different, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's a red flag. Okay, but context matters. We're not here to diagnose or prescribe, but just being able to educate your clients that this is why the number says what it says. It's so
Mm-hmm.
important. You need to give your clients some reassurance. They're scared. They're doing something they've never done before. And I'm gonna vent a little bit. If I see another person online just say, "You don't need a coach. You just eat meat and shut up," like you haven't
Yeah.
seen.
No.
I've coached hundreds of people on the carnivore diet. You have not seen what I've seen. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
there is a dozen things, probably more things that could go wrong from a biological standpoint. Not to mention the social and the mental and the things that could go wrong as well. The support that they need, and the reassurance that they need from a good qualified coach who is educated to give the right information. It's so important. And even I was scared. I had 20 years of education behind me, and I was scared during the transition. I had pain in my liver. I thought, in my kidneys. I thought, oh my God, am I dying? All these different things, right? So that's one of the reasons why we need educated coaches out here that know what the F they're talking about, Eddie.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. No, in fact, that's a great point because yeah, I've even had my fiance is effectively carnivore when you look at it in the anthropological definitions. But she's a little less strict than I am, fair enough. But um, I've had to quote unquote coach her in an unofficial, informal fashion. She's had problems this way, and if she hadn't had me, she may have may have very well changed her diet back to what it was before. Maybe not completely back to what it was before. I highly doubt that she would have done that, but you know, she would have done something that she would have, maybe regretted down the line because she thought, well, it's a fear response. It's an anxiety response. And having people that can reinforce your positions on something, not in a dogmatic sort of cultic fashion, but in a way that's actually grounded in truth, in a disciplined pursuit of it, and in a logical fashion, that is imperative, actually. That's essential for many people. Some people can get away with not doing that. Some people can troubleshoot themselves, they can think logically. But the thing
Yeah.
about anxiety, anyone that has ever had anxiety, they know that even if you say out loud why you're anxious in order to hear how illogical it is, it doesn't matter if it's not logical to be anxious about something, it doesn't stop the anxiety. That's not
Mhm.
how anxiety works. Okay, there's an unconscious level, there's a primitive sort of, amygdalic response to an activity and a drive towards that presentation of anxiety. And so having someone help with that again gives authority meaning, that is taught with the of some of the most, with from instructors of the utmost integrity and veracity.
Mhm.
um that's very, very critical. That's very critical. Instead of it's way preferable. It's far more preferable to the coaches online that you know are coaches because they said so and are saying things like, fiber max. You got a fiber max, folks.
Or
That's
dare I say the C word, the calorie deficit.
no, yeah, calorie deficit.
Okay,
Yes.
this is for anyone who's listening who believes in the calorie deficit. Okay, which is that's fine, but please explain to me how I've worked with hundreds of people and they've upped their calories by 50, 60, 70% and are losing body fat. If Bart was here, he'd have the crickets. Okay.
Oh, wait, wait,
Explain.
wait, I got it. I got it. You won't hear it, but they will.
Come on, people. If there's more than just the calories exist within the bomb calorimeter, that's great. All right.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But anyways, but that's one thing we teach in the coaching too, is if that's a method your clients are so accustomed of using, work with that. Work with, if they're so wrapped around, and it'll just take too much time trying to unteach them the calories. If they're going to be using calories, that's great. In my coaching, I say calories are helpful. Thank you so much for giving me those. What helps me even more is your
Yeah.
fat, well, your fat macros, your protein macros, and your carb macros. This way we can see what might be happening in the endocrine system, how they could be affecting that, i.e., can the Randle cycle being activated? Are there multiple insulin responses in the day? That way we can take a look at that. And then they'll say, oh, okay, yeah, sure, I'll send it. But if they use the word calories, I don't say, you idiot, what's the matter with you? You want to be very,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You want to be accommodating. You want to be leaning forward and not backward. You want to be constructive and not destructive with your criticisms and feedback. So of course, if you're dealing with a client, then you don't want to say, well, the fact that you've fallen for calories makes me realize how stupid, like, obviously, which isn't even true in the first place. People are just trying their best. But yeah, the thing about calories, I mean, I can go on and on about that, but I could
we
talk
have a
for hours about
module.
that.
You have a module idea in the program.
Yes, yes, I do. Yeah, I do have a
It's,
module all about calories. Like that's really, yeah,
it's a good one.
it's all about calories. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So again, just another reason to sign up for the program, because I mean, if it's already enough. I'm going to be straightforward. It's already enough to sign up whenever you realize that you're going to be internationally accredited and internationally recognized through two major institutions, and eventually, hopefully, three others that we're working towards. But you're just getting all of these other features as well. I've
Mhm.
got multiple modules in that program. One of which, again, is about calories. Because again, I talked about it in my book as well. If you haven't read it already, this is imperative. This is necessary. You must. You must. But I have a section on calories there, but it's another thing to speak about it, and visualize it.
Yes.
And that's one of the things that we've done in the program, especially particularly with that module on calories. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Mm.
it's
There's
yeah,
quizzes, there's interaction, lots of
yeah,
good
it's
stuff.
pretty interactive in that respect. Yeah, I think it's very, very, very important. I think it's very effective, and it's conducive to people's full understanding of the concepts. There's also, I mean, if there's any difficulty with understanding anything, like as much as you want to, like if you want to go even further into it, um, there's also a consultation service that I'm offering as a part of this program as well, where you get to talk to me directly. Um, and you know,
Right.
I've already had a few. You can find some of them on my channel as well. In a playlist known as consultations.
Mm.
But you can actually find those because that gives you an idea of what to expect. So yeah, I mean, again, we're providing as much here to help you out with the understanding as possible. We are committed to your full understanding. We
Yeah.
like absolutely committed to that.
Yeah. I,
So
I, I want to be so that if I die tomorrow, I got a bunch of coaches who know what the heck they're talking about. They
yep.
have the, like, if you want to learn from people like Eddie and the other instructors, we have incredible instructors. We have, Dr. Anchor, who's we're going to be doing a podcast with in March. And
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yes, yes,
he
for
does one
sure.
on how to read the scientific literature. There's lots of good ones. Um, Maybe I could figure out how to share my screen. I could actually show you if you guys want to see.
Yeah,
Do I
yeah,
have
yeah,
that
yeah.
option?
Let's see if it. Yeah, we'll see if it can. We'll see if it works here. I'll have to get it situated on my end as well.
All right.
Um,
We'll
and
keep
then
going
and
with what we're doing. Let's take some questions if you want.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, good, good. So we've got. How cautious should we be with farm raised seafood like salmon or big ocean fish like tuna? I'll go first on this one. I don't know what your opinion. Well, do you have any opinions on this, Peter? When
Well,
people ask you that question.
yeah, I can understand the concern because I've seen some of the farm raised salmon and even tuna with the mercury levels and things, right? Um, my number one thing is if someone's getting tuna, you know, it does have a higher mercury count. I think it's got the highest mercury of the fish and it's probably usually not farmed because you can't keep something that big, right? They're usually
Mhm.
always ocean. So I like that. Make sure it's in water in the can, not in oil, because the oil goes
Yes,
rancid.
100%.
But if you're not consuming it a lot, I wouldn't be concerned. Like, you gotta show some grace. You gotta show a little bit. You gotta be chill. Like, your mindset
Mhm.
matters a lot. And on my Instagram, you might even see my girls gave me a Valentine's, and it's actually a Bible verse, and it says, it's better to eat vegetables with friends than a fattened calf with enemies. And there's some truth to that. Like, your perspective
Yeah,
and your
yeah.
environment matters as well. So, I'm not dogmatic in this perspective. Now, Eddie, you can go a little bit more of the detail of the science perspective, but I'm more relaxed when it comes to that kind of thing. I'm kind of like the Ken Berry approach, like, just get the meat that you can afford. But because
Yeah, yeah.
because seafood is not a common staple, I'm not as concerned. I would focus more on, like, when you're having beef, try to get grass fed, maybe grain finished. But I'll let you go ahead, Eddie.
Well, I mean, you and I basically have the same opinion on this. I don't want this. This is the thing. This is the distinction between. There's a very fine line between living fearfully and living intentionally. Okay, you don't want to be afraid of all the tiny things that could be wrong with your food. You want to be intentional about avoiding those things, but understanding that it's not the worst thing in the world if you have to depend on them and subsist on them. This also applies to plants. If you are watching this, my dear viewer, and you are fearful of plants, I
There's a
command you,
broccoli.
yeah, I command you to stop today, because it's not about fear. It's about living intentionally, recognizing the level of indication between different foods and realizing which is most optimal and which isn't most optimal. Okay. Or, indicated or contraindicated, one might say.
Where's
Uh,
my butt got so way over there? I can't
it,
reach.
yeah. But that applies to this example here with fish. Okay, fish, unfortunately, as a byproduct of human innovation and intervention, there are byproducts that are unanticipated and that many people view as sort of still part of a net benefit for humankind. In this case, pollution of the ocean. Now, whether you actually believe that that's a net benefit, it is still part of a net benefit or not, I don't, I'm quite concerned about it, but we'll find out. That's a natural selection in action. Okay, we'll find out. But the thing about the subsequent effects of this is that the fish nowadays, especially wild caught, it's actually less problematic with farm raised, but farm raised has its own problems, right? But with wild caught, it's a trade off. You're getting more heavy metal content. They're primarily present in the bigger fish. So, I mean, you don't really have to be too worried about it unless you're having like swordfish every day, in which case, yikes. Okay, let's tone that. Like, maybe have that like once or
A
twice a
year.
year or something. Yeah, yeah. But like when it comes to things like tuna, when it comes to things like salmon, when it comes to things like sardines, especially the really small fish, mackerel's up there actually a little bit with the smaller fish if you're considering all the smaller fish. But like things like sardines, you really don't have to worry too much about that. If you're having it once a week, if you're having it like even twice a week, I really don't think that it's a good idea to be living in fear about that. It's not healthy. In fact, it's actually a net negative to your life in many people if you're treating food like this. So it's nice to live intentionally, but it's not good to be living in fear. Sardines, have them. Tuna, have them once in a while. Like you said, have it be in water. Don't have it in all the rancid, oxidized, polyunsaturated fats and the oils and stuff like that. You may consider avoiding the cans as well, or avoiding seafood if you're concerned about the BPA or the BPS in the cans. Yes, that could be a concern for people. I don't personally eat anything out of cans, but I will be really honest. I give my cats sardines in their food, and if there's a sardine left in the can, I will eat it. So I mean, that's just for people's perspective. Um, but yeah, really, really important to draw the line, draw the distinction between living intentionally and living fearfully. Do not be afraid to have smaller fish. Um, when you avoid something, don't make it out of fear. Never let it be out of fear. Let it be out of intent.
Hmm.
So,
Great
um,
question. Good question.
yeah.
I think if someone has a severe health condition, then they would have to be a little bit more careful.
Yes, of
But
course.
you would see the signs quite quickly. Like you would get a reaction, and that's when you really have to be in tune with what's how you're feeling. Keep a journal. How am I write down how am I feeling before, how am I feeling during and after. Is there a reaction? Is there a histamine response? All these different things. But for 90% of you, what Eddie and I said, just relax, do what you can, do what you can do.
Hmm. Absolutely. Now we've got something else that isn't a question, but I think it warrants a comment or a response. Carbs are naturally in all foods, including meat, just lower than the SAD diet, the standard American diet. um, what would you say to someone that says this? I can't tell. This is the problem with messaging, like through text. You can't tell the actual motive behind the message a lot of times. Like, is it adversarial? Is it somehow from someone that is against us, or is it someone just clarifying things? Either way, what would you say to someone that would say this, that maybe says it in a way that's rooted in, trying to undermine the positions of
We're
carnivore?
like, vegans won't have any animals, right? That's their
Right.
ideology. Maybe some of them do it for health, which is great. I respect whatever your diet is. Um, there are a lot of animal deaths in vegan diets, but I won't go into that. I grew up on a soy farm, but I won't. I didn't eat the soy because I saw what was happening in the fields. But going on is like we're not afraid of carbohydrates. It is in meat. There are trace amounts, right? Because we've evolved for how many years to eat it, but it's in minimal instances. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you are going to have carbohydrates, eat it in a naturally occurring environment. Like if you are going to have carbohydrates, and if you're okay with seasonal fruit in season, all right, have a little bit. But if you have a reaction, don't have it. But I had a great call with Lee. I keep Kent Carnivore. A lot of people know him
Kent.
as Kent.
Yeah.
I thought his name was Kent for the longest time. It's Lee.
Yeah. I think I made that mistake one
Oh yeah.
time, and I went, "Oh, yeah, that's just the place that you're from." Yeah.
But I asked him. We did a. I love the video I did with him. I said, if you are going to have vegetables or fruit, which one would you recommend? And he was talking about from a digestible standpoint, what's the easiest to digest? And he said, even though it goes against my eat locally ideology, a very ripe banana or very very highly cooked vegetables because of the fiber, because you want to smooth out easily. So with the going back to the argument, we're not afraid of carbohydrates. All right. We're not like vegans when it's like there's a trace amount of milk over like, oh my God, and like we gotta return it and make
Yeah.
a big scene about it. We evolved to have a little bit, but we're not going to just because of that, we're not going to extract sugar from a cane and make cookies out of it. We're not idiots. All right.
Yeah.
Like it's a stupid question, but I just want to assume that it's there's integrity behind the question as well. So if
Yeah. Yeah.
so, go ahead,
What I
Eddie.
would no, yeah, what I would say is usually I'd ask, you made really good points about the whole dogmatic thing. Like we're not like vegans, right? Like it doesn't matter we're not trying to necessarily, like, one of the tenets is that you must be zero carb, not 2 grams, not 1 gram, right? It's not part of that. It's just whatever's in the meat is indicated for us to be consuming. What I would ask the anyone that says this is, okay, how many grams? So you say there's carbohydrates in meat. You say there's carbohydrates in animal products. How many are we talking about, and in what forms? Like what forms of food? Because when you actually look into it, there might be like half a gram in a pound of cooked ground beef, for example, just for reference. When you talk about eggs, there are no carbohydrates in eggs. There are literally zero. That's not true. There's no carbohydrates in eggs. Like that's not even a thing. So that's not that's not true. So yeah, when you realize how low it is, it's a very negligible amount to the point where it may round up to like 1 gram. In which case, so what? Um, we've got so someone saying calories red flag, cholesterol heart attack red flag, fiber red flag, carbs red flag.
I
They're all
love
red
fiber.
flags.
I love fiber, muscle fiber.
Yes. Of course, yeah.
Eat
Look,
fiber every day.
yeah. That's the healthy. That's the good gut fiber. That's the fiber good
Like,
for the gut. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. You
Actually,
got
Lee's module I love. He really he talks about fiber really well. I encourage you all to take a look at that soon. Go ahead, Eddie.
yeah, I did.
Sorry.
I have watched some of the stuff that yeah, for sure. There's some of the stuff that he's saying in there for sure. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. Um, grams. I'm teaching them that first. Another word to throw out is moderation. Yes, yes. The word to throw out is of the sort of
Oh, the
lingo.
coaches.
Yeah. Like everything in moderation. Oh, you just got to have this in moderation. It's fine in moderation. It's like, well, what do
Well,
we mean by moderation?
well, there is some truth, and I think sometimes half truths are more dangerous than a full lie. I think sometimes. Um, so if someone's goal is only to lose weight or body fat, um, if you are having things in moderation, you probably will lose weight. But being teaching people on carnivore is something so much deeper than just losing fat. We want people to heal from inside out. It's a totally different ball game. It's like you don't take your Lamborghini to a civics convention. We're the Lamborghinis, all right. We're in the Ferrari, like we're in a whole different level. We want to see people heal from a deep level. We don't. Yeah, weight loss is a fun perk, but it's not the focus.
It's yeah.
A lot of these coaches are just focused on weight loss. It's a different, like I don't even pay attention. Like there was an influencer that popped in my feed, and he said, "No, I drink." He said, "Drink diet cola. You can drink diet cola every day. Drink as much as you want. There's 0 calories." And I'm just like, I just scroll on. That's not my cup of tea or
Uh,
bone broth.
or bone broth, yeah. It's not my cup of bone broth. Not my cup of broth, yeah. No, yeah. Well, it's one of those things where if you're focused on weight loss so much, why don't you just cut your legs off? Because that's the easiest way to do it. You can do it tomorrow.
Yeah,
It's like, well, Eddie, that's outlandish. Obviously, that then it would be a net. It wouldn't be a net benefit. It'd be a net loss because you wouldn't be able to walk around and stuff. It's like, okay, fine.
exactly.
Well, yeah. It's like, okay, fine. We'll give that to you. Uh, but that's not the point. The point is, who's to say that the diet that you're putting these people on is the same thing, not a net benefit, just because you're getting weight loss out of them. Like you can make someone starve themselves and get weight loss. It's the way in which you get the weight loss. It's the way in which you get the thing. Okay, that's how this works.
Yeah.
That's what
What?
this is.
Well, think bone loss. You don't want to lose bone. And
Yeah,
that's why I believe Ozempic is having so many lawsuits right now, is because people are getting a lot worse off because of the bone loss, and that causes a lot. You'll lose weight, yeah, but it's going to cause a lot more issues later on.
yeah. Definitely. Um, I don't think we're frozen on the stream. I hope not. If anyone thinks we're frozen, let me know because I can fix that really quick. Yeah, it looks like it froze for a second. Looks like it froze for a second. Let me
Okay.
let me get this fixed. I think people can still hear us.
Hello,
But
everybody.
yes.
Welcome to Eddie and Coach Peter's live chat.
Yeah. Let me get this going. Oh, now it looks really weird. Now it looks real weird on the stream.
Oh, okay.
Interesting. Do you see what it looks like now?
No, it looks good on my end.
Okay. Yeah, wait for it, and then you might see that something changes. I got it. But anyway, let's take a look here at what else people are saying. We've got at I wonder. Ooh, there I am. I heard that. There
Yeah,
you go.
I'm watching this great YouTuber Eddie Goki. Ever heard of him?
Hi, I wonder if you both ever heard of wax esters. They're indigestible fats in some deep water fatty fish, but gives you a unique type of uncontrollable runs called chyriuria. I've never heard of that before. Have you heard of that, Peter?
No, no.
Interesting.
If anyone's heard about it in the chat, feel free to dive in and take a look.
Yeah. I never eat sardines, liver, organ meats. Yeah, what's your opinion on organ meats? What do you think about organ meats?
Um, well, I have a little bit of organ supplement once in a while. Here's the thing: if you take organ supplements and you feel better, do that. Do do what makes you feel good. And I teach the coaches, the more unnatural your environment, the more unnatural your diet or habits might have to be. You know, like I sleep on a grounded bed sheet because I'm in Canada. It's cold. I can't get to the ground, right? And
Yeah,
I also push myself quite a lot in the gym. Like I get all my my pecs moving and everything. I work pretty hard, and then so I find a little bit of extra supplement. So I consider it like a supplement. I think that's the fair answer. I don't consider it like as a daily food. I consider it like a supplement food. So it's something where it has a specific purpose for a specific time. And again, you have to eat in relation to the animal. Like if, let's say, a cow will feed you for, let's say, potentially a year. So how many hearts is that going to be in a year? It's going to be one. How many lungs? How many tongue? How many livers? It's going to be
yeah.
one. So just eat in proportion to the animal, and so don't overdo it. You don't want to be all Paul Sally, I don't know action on it. So
Oh man. Yeah, no, don't do that. Don't ever go full Saladino. Don't do that. Never. um,
apparently, someone said that eggs do have carbs.
uh, I may have gotten it mixed up. I may have flipped it around. It's either that ground beef has literally 0 grams of carbs and eggs have like, oh, yes, no, that is true. That's not what I meant. Eggs have zero vitamin C. I
Oh,
got the
vitamin
numbers
C.
mixed up. Yes,
Okay.
vitamin C is yes. Okay, good. Yes, there are a few trace carbs in eggs. Yes, that is correct. I'm now
I'm,
remembering what the zero was. Why I was so literally
vitamins,
the eggs have
vitamin,
zero vitamin C, like none.
and that's I was thinking vitamin C when you said that, and that's a great point as well. Like if you don't want to just have eggs, you want to have meat, right? So because a lot of carnivores sometimes are like, oh, I'll just do an egg fast for a few weeks. You have to. It's not necessarily the
Yeah,
best thing to do.
yeah, no, no, not necessarily at all. It's Yeah, you do get some trace. You get some trace carbs in eggs for sure. Yeah, an egg has 0.6 grams of carbs per large egg. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yes. 10 eggs around 6 grams of carbs. Yes, yes, yes. Teach them to play with new rules so they don't get confused playing. Do you think raw dairy can make me develop beyond my genetic limits, so to speak? And do you think organs are good during developmental years? Okay. Raw dairy. Well, it depends on what you mean by genetic limits. You will have genetic limits that you therefore, hence the name limit, you will not be able to surpass. If you're asking if you can more easily attain those genetic limits of whatever trait that you're speaking of with raw dairy, with the help of raw dairy, and only with the help of raw dairy, um, I can't definitively answer that question. You'd have to try it out yourself. What I will say about raw dairy is that I think that if you can move away from dairy without any problems, I think that might be best to do. You don't have to. I'm not saying that. If it's a net benefit to you for like maintaining a carnivore diet, sticking to it, you don't have any problems with it, go ahead. I mean, keep doing it. But I trend more towards Ken Berry and Anthony Chafee's positions on dairy, which is yeah, it's an animal product, but once again with the whole we're not dogmatic when it comes to carnivore. Just because something is carnivore doesn't necessarily mean we believe that it's appropriate to be consuming. Dairy is highly addictive. We've been consuming it on an evolutionary basis for less time than we've been consuming plants in any significant amount. We must remember that. Yes, it more approximates animal, like what is most indicated for our physiology because there's no plant toxins in it, so long as it's raw and grass fed. That's actually another point. If it's not, then you actually do have some. But yeah, it has similar fatty acid profiles, similar amino acid profiles, sure. But it's also got lots more carb content. It's more addictive. Once again, you have the potential problem of the A1, A2 protein sort of differentiation. It's something that people, again, be wary of dairy is what I said in my book, and I say it now too. Be wary of dairy. It doesn't mean to completely eliminate it. It doesn't mean that you are, you know, a horrible person that ought to be looked down upon if you have dairy in your diet. I mean, look, I have cheese in my diet. Okay. I don't think it's the most optimal, but I have it. So don't think that I'm sitting here going, I'm being a prude or something like that, if that's even the right word to use when it comes to it. But, it's, I still think that's the ideal. We can recognize an ideal while also simultaneously recognizing that we're not necessarily going to attain it all the time. We're not going to attain it all the time. And that goes for more broad discussions as well. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you agree or concur with that, Peter.
Was the beginning of the question like, will it help them achieve greater performance, or what was it specific?
Be develop beyond my genetic limits, so to speak. And it's vague because I mean genetic limits with regard to what?
Yeah,
Strength, with regard to stature.
yeah,
That's why. But they also said, do you think organs are good during developmental years? In which case, I'd say sort of what you said about organs, which is like sparingly. Sure, it could be a benefit. You're gonna have to experiment with that yourself. But anyway, I don't know
yeah.
what your opinions are with the dairy
Yeah,
specifically.
I think historically, like in my opinion, I think the raw dairy was mostly consumed by the people, let's say, who tend to be at home more, let's say typically, and then that's stereotyping, but typically the women and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
children.
Yep.
Um, and that's why I think women and children do better with maybe
Mm-hmm.
dairy at certain times. Maybe they do better with a little bit of carbohydrates. Not saying they should have it, but just comparably speaking, with adults. Um, if someone like my son, he started doing carnivore and he started having raw dairy, and he really bulked up with it, but he was during that puberty stage, right? So I think it helped him a little bit, and he didn't have any negative reactions. Like it's designed to make a calf, to turn a calf into a grown. Like how many pounds do they get? Like 1,000.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like,
I don't know, but
yeah,
it's a lot. It's with a very
yeah,
short amount of time they grow a very significant amount. It's designed to grow them as fast as possible, as rapidly as possible.
yeah. Like
Um,
if I was doing like high intensity training, and if I was growing, I would probably encourage raw dairy. Yeah, I don't
yeah.
see
Well,
anything wrong with that.
I'd also consider how much of the mass that you're putting on with raw dairy is in the form of fat or muscle, because you also have to distinguish between whether it's you're just gaining a bunch of fat or if you're gaining muscle, because you can fill out your muscle even though you're gaining fat because you're filling the muscle cells up with fat with intracellular lipids and stuff. So it's like you also have to consider that. Like you can't really see that from the outside. You'd see that based on your performance.
And the water weight from the carb or from the
Yes,
sugar, right?
yes, exactly, exactly. If your raw dairy does have sugar in it, because if you get like cheese or something, then you don't really have to worry about it too much. But
Yeah.
um, I eat Steven says I eat 6 to 12 eggs every day, and I don't worry about the carbs in the eggs. The nutrition I get from the eggs far outweigh the carbs. I agree. The carb count in eggs. I mean, to worry about half a gram of carbohydrates in an egg. Yeah. I mean, even if you're having like 6 grams of carbs a day, that's nothing. That really is nothing. We have to remember you got to compare this to like the hundreds of grams that the average American consumes, or the average. Uh, I mean, nowadays it's not just the average American; it's the average Westerner.
Yeah. I'm a big
Um,
fan of experimentation. Like if you feel good at it, like experiment by taking it out.
yep, yep.
Sorry to interrupt, Eddie. Sorry there.
No, no, you're good. You're good.
I
This
wanted
is
to.
the point.
Could you read out the question? I didn't see the full one about folate anemia. I think it said. Do you see that one?
Let's see if I can find that. I don't know. Was it earlier up in the chat? Was it like
I think it
from
was
when we
recent.
first recent? Because I remember seeing some talk about folate, and I couldn't see where it
Yeah.
came from. Let me see.
If I remember correctly, someone was just recently diagnosed with folate anemia, and it's usually caused by, let's say, deficiency in B9 specifically, from what I remember. And so a doctor would typically say things like, you need to have more kale and certain greens and things. But if you were my client, I'd probably recommend like a little bit more liver, like a little bit more organ in this instance, until some of those symptoms get better. Like if you have fatigue and weakness, and if you're shortness of breath, there's lots of different like symptoms, heart palpitations. It also could be misdiagnosed as well. So the greatest test to see if you have it or not is to take maybe a doctor's recommended dose, and if it improves, then you don't have it. But if you're constantly getting it, I would start doing some more organ supplements or organ foods, liver, that kind of thing. Do you have any thoughts
Okay,
on
yeah.
that?
No, I would agree with basically everything that you just said. Especially with the whole misdiagnosis thing. Like, you have to also determine, are you symptomatic or are you just looking at a blood test? Because we saw this with Michaela Peterson a while back, where she said, "Yeah, I actually started supplementing with folate or something because, or organ supplements because I'm deficient in folate." But she didn't have any symptoms. She actually said in the video she didn't have any symptoms. She was just seeing a blood level on a blood test. And I said, well, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. I think she even had some, not pressure, because that makes it sound like this person was, had some vested interest or something like that. I think she was highly influenced and helped and guided to this decision to supplement, despite having no symptomology, by Nutrition with Judy. So again, nothing against Nutrition with Judy. It's just my position is you got to look at symptoms first, because you can actually worsen people's health by getting them within a certain range of a vitamin or a level of anything, um, without understanding why that level is the way it is. Because if the level is the way it is because that's exactly what the body deems to be appropriate, then getting them in that range is actually not good. It's worse. You're actually
Yeah.
doing them a disservice. They might not be symptomatic in either position, but Hippocratic oath. It's like you gotta be careful when you intervene and when you suggest intervening and changing your diet.
Yeah,
So
this is why when you're coaching, this is why it's so important to ask so many questions. Like the first question I'd ask you, I can't remember your name, about who needs more folate, the anemia. Like, are you drinking alcohol? Because that's going to, are you drinking a lot of alcohol? Are you drinking more than usual? Because that's going to affect how your body absorbs folate, for example. So this is why these questions are important in coaching. So if you have more questions about you, feel free to reach out and or you can contact one of our coaches or such. Or Coach Stephen Thomas is one of our instructors. He specializes pretty good. He's pretty well known in like more
mhm.
medical related instances. So you're welcome to contact him as well. But are you epileptic? Have you ever been on anti seizure drugs? Because that as well. Is that why you're carnivore now? I don't know. So there's a lot of questions that we could ask that you don't have to tell me here, but this is if you're coaching someone, these are things you want to find out about the person.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree with that as well. Well, we're approaching the hour and a half mark. I will take one more question here. I want to get through this, and then we can remind people where to go to sign up to be a certified carnivore coach, and help more people learn more things, but help people have the best experience on a carnivore diet that they have the genetic potential for, that is actually possible for them to achieve, because that's what this is all about, is benefiting people's health in the most effective way possible, consulting with them, et cetera, and empowering them with knowledge. So the last question is from Sam again, or Sam Sapphire. Again, I'm doing my best. You can't tell me that I'm not doing my best. Um,
You're
I'm a
doing your
home,
best.
yes, I'm a homebody. There are days I don't go outside, so I was curious if a liquid or pill vitamin D3 would be beneficial. What are your thoughts on that? A vitamin D3 supplementation protocol if someone doesn't go outside very frequently. What's your position on that, Peter?
I I alluded to that earlier. The more unnatural your lifestyle, then the more unnatural your habits or your supplementation might need to be. So
Yep.
if you're not going outside as much, if you live in a cold climate, there's not a lot of sun. Yeah. Now D3, a lot of people overdo it. A liquid form is best. Just one drop. That's all you need under the tongue. I'm not prescribing it, but ideally that's all you need. All right. A drop under the tongue, maybe every 1 or 2 days. I see people, they overdo it. Now, D is a fat soluble vitamin, so it stays in your body longer. It's not like vitamin C, it just flushes out. Correct me if I'm wrong, Eddie.
No, that's actually what I'm getting ready to say something after you do. And yeah.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, it's not like vitamin C where if you overdose on it, you just crap it all out. Um, which explains that citrate drink that doctors give you before a colonoscopy, right? It's a high citrus to high vitamin C to just flush everything out. Vitamin D, you have to be more careful with because it does stay in the body longer. But yeah, have it. You'll feel better for it, but also try to get that sweet vitamin sun as well.
Yeah. So what I would say about vitamin D, this is actually pretty interesting. You can consider supplementing with it, especially if you are having, you think it's beneficial or you're having symptoms that may lead you to believe that you're deficient in vitamin D. Here's what's interesting. I actually have a friend from the UK who has he used to have very bad vitamin D3 deficiency. It showed up on his levels, but also symptom wise as well. He used to supplement with it all the time. And it's because he never really, he back then, he actually went outside more often than he does now. Okay, so he was outside quite frequently. And so he supplemented with it. He went carnivore, and on carnivore, he's consuming far less vitamin D in foods, first of all, because you don't really get that much vitamin D in foods. The only time that you're really doing that is whenever you have dairy that's fortified with it, or if you have egg yolks. Egg yolks, you're going to have vitamin D in them. And then, yes, you can get vitamin D from, like, some fish oil. Like, there are other sources, sure. But he's getting far less than he was before, and he's outside far less. And yet, he's now no longer deficient in vitamin D. And he's been on carnivore for, I think, it's a little over a year, I think, now. And he's felt the best he's ever felt before. And so that's something to consider. Your ability to recycle these things, your ability to retain vitamins, it seems to go up on carnivore, which I'm almost I almost hesitate to say things like that because it sounds too good to be true. I almost sound like I'm like dogmatic, like I'm becoming dogmatic, but that's why I'm careful with what I'm saying. It seems to be the case. It does seem to be the case that happens whenever you go carnivore. And so that's something to consider whenever you start talking about supplementation with vitamin D. You may not need it at all. Even though you're not getting as much sunlight, maybe you actually don't need as much as you think you do. Again, it's just going to depend. I'm not saying that there are we have to remember, it's not the case that it's the only benefit of sunlight that you just acquire, you synthesize more vitamin D. There are plenty of other benefits of sunlight exposure that I think should not be neglected. You should still, expose yourself to sunlight. But when it comes to vitamin D, it might be far less of an issue than you think. And then the last thing I'll say about vitamin D is if you're going to supplement with D3, I would supplement it with K2. That's typically
Ooh.
said to be, there is an important balance. Whenever I was starting my alternative health journey and thinking I was doing the right thing, this was years ago, I supplemented with vitamin D3, and it was a very high. I was taking about 20,000 IU a day, maybe even 30,000 IU a day. I was doing and it was with no K2, and I also wasn't getting K2 for my diet because I was mainly plant-based. I started to have really bad problems with my bone health. I started to have bad pain in my bones, and I was told by my physician at the time that my vitamin D3 levels my vitamin D levels were through the roof. Through the roof. Now, obviously, levels don't necessarily represent the activity of the D3. We understand all this. All the limitations are still to be considered. However, it was massively high, and I don't want to just make a blanket statement of just, take D3 and then you're totally fine, because that needs to be considered as well, having the balance between D3 and K2. Obviously, the best option is to get sunlight, but if for some reason you can't, then supplement with D3 and K2 and just don't overdo it. I would suggest maybe maximum, we're talking like 5,000 IU a day, like maximum with K2. I mean, 125 micrograms as well if you're using a microgram level. But again, be careful with that. And if you're going to get a supplement that isn't in liquid form, and even if it is in liquid form, I would highly advise against getting anything with those seed oil bases in them. Like if you're going to get one, get coconut oil or something and all that. Like don't get what is the common oil that they use in the supplements themselves? I don't think it's soybean oil, but it could be.
Canola, probably.
Yeah, something like that.
If,
Whatever it is.
if only there was a course that had a supplement module section in it,
Join our sign up to be a member of our program, of our carnivore certification program, to get internationally. That's a good way to end it, actually. Again, if you have not signed up to be a member of our carnivore certification program to be internationally accredited as a nutrition and fitness coach, a carnivore nutrition and fitness coach, recognized by the National Academy of Sports Medicine and the Athletics and Fitness Association of America, in order to help people, coach people directly and fight the good fight against all of the charlatan coaches that call themselves coaches just because they said so, that don't know what they're talking about at all, so that you can help people achieve the best experience on a carnivore diet that they have, that they can ever have, and that they could ever hope for.
Yep.
Then you need to do so today. Links are in the description below. I cannot emphasize this enough. The links are in the description below to sign up to schedule a free call with Coach Peter directly, to see if you're a good fit for the program. I also have, other interviews that I've done with Peter. I mean, this is a good, this was already, this sort of served the purpose that the interviews do, which is to give people a better understanding of who you are, what your temperament is, what your philosophy is that you implement, because ultimately you are the head of the program. Um, but even, if people want even further details as to what's involved in the program, like I said, I've contributed multiple modules. We've got a bunch of instructors in there, a bunch of other instructors in there with modules of their own. We're continuously adding to this program as well. This is the greatest coaching program that I am aware of in the alternative health space, broadly speaking. So again, if you have not signed up to be a coach, we need more coaches in the space that know what they're talking about. This is an opportunity for you to fight this fight against the nonsense in the space that's spread by a bunch of other nutrition and fitness coaches online. So get down there, description below, to get a hold of Coach Peter about this. You can email him. You can even email me if you'd like, and I'll get you, connected with Coach Peter directly. The interviews are below. So with that said, Peter, it was nice having you on, and it was a very good experience having you and I answer people's questions in the chat about all things carnivore and health related. And I'm sure that this won't be the only time that we do that. So I'm looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, me too. If you guys want to book a call and I could show you firsthand what the program looks like, or if you have any more questions for me, hope to see you there.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, piece of meat.
Yes, my dear viewer, thanks for being on. Good to have you on, and I'll see you in the next one.